Welcome to Truth and Transcendence. You can find all our other episodes on truthandtranscendence.com and in all the usual places. When I took my first LSD trip back in the 1970s, one of the things that most struck me about the experience was how it pulled me irresistibly into the present moment. Everything became very, very vivid. This was alongside the usual colours and shapes and distortions of perception and so on that everyone has read about or experienced or heard about. But this specific experience of being pulled absolutely into the present moment was very strong and very noticeable. And it had the effect of extending time. So a very short amount of time would feel like a very long amount of time. And as I understand it, this was because my perceptions were so open that they were picking up on so much more information that was coming in. And it was giving the impression of a much extended time frame. So in other words, I was experiencing the moment much more fully and in much more depth than usual, than I normally did. And I really valued that experience. I thought it was very, very helpful. And after I came out of the trip, I took the memory of that with me and took it into my life. And I actually began to practice ways of trying to be present. Well, at least I was able to remember that feeling of being incredibly present in that way. Of course, when I took the LSD, it was the chemical nature of it interacting with my brain and receptors and all that sort of thing, which was bringing about that experience. So it wasn't due to any personal work I'd done, or it wasn't an act of will on my part. It was just a natural consequence of the effects of the drug. But it did illustrate something for me, and it did register something for me that imprinted itself on me and that I never, ever forgot. So why am I telling you about this now? Am I recommending that you go and take an LSD trip? No, I'm not recommending that. It's one of those things which, if you feel called to look into it, you look into it and you're very, very careful and you get advice and you do the research and you check your physiology and your system carefully first, and you make sure that it's going to be beneficial and at least safe to do it. So that's the little health and safety disclaimer right there. But the thing I really remembered when I was thinking about this the other day, I was at home. I was feeling a bit blah, a bit flat on that particular day. And my mind was casting around and thinking, I'm not very excited. I'm not very enthusiastic. What's the point? And my mind was sort of freewheeling around past, things that happened in the past, imagined future, and what felt like a sort of emptiness in the moment was what I was experiencing, what I was feeling. Somehow I managed to put my shoes on and go outside, and I walked across the lane. I live near a little country lane, and on the other side of the lane, there's a churchyard. And I walked into the churchyard, up a few steps, through a little rusty metal kissing gate, and onto the little mossy path in the churchyard. And I'd gone a few steps up this mossy path, and suddenly I was pulled irresistibly into the moment. There was something about the combination of the colours and textures in the churchyard, the sounds of the breeze in the trees, of the birds. Around here, there are many birds. And I swear some of them are inventing bird songs as they go, because they start with one song, then it switches to something else, and then to something else. And it's absolutely captivating. It's almost impossible not to stop and listen to it. And the whole experience, as I just stepped into this churchyard, it was as if the whole world was conspiring to grab me and pull me into the present and anchor me there. And it was almost like a shock. And in that moment, I realized how unpresent I was before that moment, and how the sludge I was experiencing, the meaninglessness, the grayness, the flatness, the blandness, was 100% entirely to do with the fact that I wasn't in the moment. Because the minute I was pulled into that moment, I was filled with the wonder of the miracle of life. I actually gasped with the shock of it, but it was a shock of unutterable beauty in that moment. And the smell of the air and the sweetness of it as I inhaled it, the whole thing was just delightful. And I stopped and thought, oh my God, this is available in any moment. So I'm guessing you've probably had experiences like that. But the thing that really struck me about that was this was not what many of us try to do, which is to go into a meditative state where we clear the mind and where we find the present moment through clearing the mind. This was almost the opposite to that, in that there was something that happened to me or around me that grabbed me and almost forced me into the present moment. So it was the complete other end of the spectrum from going into stillness and clearing the mind. It was more like something so present, something so powerfully vivid, something so full of life brought itself into my experience and pulled me into the present moment. A completely different route for arriving in the present moment. And I thought this is a really valuable alternative to the clearing of the mind, which, by the way, I think is a fantastic thing to do. But I also think that this other thing, which is where you put yourself in a situation, or you find yourself in a situation where you're pulled into the present moment by the power and the vividness and the presence of the sensation in the moment, the experience in the moment. This could happen in many ways. One might be your lover touches you on the hand, perhaps when you weren't expecting it, and bang, you're right in your body, you're utterly present. Or a glance across a room, meeting the eyes of somebody, and something goes through you that you are 100% in the present. You're not worrying about the past. You're not worrying about the future. You're not regretting. You're not blaming. You're not doing anything. You are just there. You are right there. Or a piece of music. Or a taste. A perfect avocado with the exact right vinaigrette dressing. Something absolutely delicious. The perfect glass of wine. The perfect cocktail. So any sensation, or it could be an idea. You hear an idea on a podcast, or someone communicates an idea, or an idea arrives in your mind, and bang, you're right there in the present with it. You're almost consumed by it. There's almost no space left for anything that's not in the present moment. So I would encourage you and anyone to make space in life for those moments. I mean, another one for me is that moment when I slide into the bath, where I've run the bath, I put in the salts and the oils and everything else, I've lit the candle. And that moment of sliding the body into the water that's the perfect temperature and that feels beautiful. It's particularly effective after exercising or walking or something like that. And that feeling of the water on the body, and there's that moment of complete presence. I wonder when you last had an experience like that, where the experience you were having or was happening to you brought you into the present in the way that was just a beautiful, awe-inspiring, wondrous, almost miraculous experience. So let's open space for that. Let's hold space for that. alongside the space for clearing the mind and finding the present moment in that way. So thank you for watching and listening. And if you are somebody who's looking for more reflection and contemplation in your life and more of an experience of being in the present moment, you might like to experience my taste of freedom, taste of expansive coaching, which is free. It's a little free session that I offer to people who are looking for a coaching experience, looking for a coach, and who feel that I might possibly be a good fit for you. So you'll find in the show notes, there are details and a booking link for you to claim a taste of freedom, of expansive coaching. Sorry. A taste of expansive coaching. And there are only a few places a month. My scheduler will only allow a certain number every month. So if you want to do this, do go to the show notes now and grab it. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Check out the rest of the podcast, truthandtranscendence.com, and maybe see you for a taste of expansive coaching. Have a great week, and I'll see you next time.